YouTube land. This is Brenton Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. Recently, we had someone on the show, Diana from Louisiana, and I had a lot of people contact me over the video. She had her little girl in there that was saying that it's looking at me, mommy, and ended up being kind of controversial. But there was a lot of people that contacted me and wanted to go down to Louisiana, South Louisiana, and do some squatching because it looked like a really, really good place. I do have a follow-up video coming for that. Diana won't be interviewing again, but I was going to show some things that I found in her video. But the reason I bring that up is because I've got a guest today, and I've been super stoked about this one. I've been waiting for this for a while and so excited about it. And you all are going to really like this story today. But this is another story coming from Louisiana. And I think they really have some serious activity and some areas down there where these Dogman and Bigfoot and stuff flourish, and we're going to hear a really awesome story. So anyway, we're going to go with this guy's first name, Tony, and I will let him introduce where he's from and what all he wants to reveal about where he's at and what have you. So let's not wait any longer. Let's get to the guest here. Hello, Tony. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Brent, yourself?
Yeah, doing great, man. Like I said, man, I've been super excited about this. This is going to be one of my favorite videos for sure.
Oh, well, I guess I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you, man. If you would, could you kind of tell us whatever you're willing to tell us about where you live and what it's the fauna and flora and stuff like that is like in the area you live at?
All right. Well, I'm from southeast Louisiana. I guess you can consider me a bayou boy from the bayous. We have deer, pigs. I live in a swampy area. I'm from a little small town. Don't want to give away the name, probably without giving away myself. One of them towns, where everybody knows everybody.
Right.
But that's pretty much it. We have marsh, swamp. My encounter happened on a levee system that was built probably about 10 years or so back to keep the town protected from hurricane floodwaters and things like that.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you had a relative that had an encounter. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my grandfather hunted around the same area. This was way before that levee system was built. But he had told me one night when he was about 17, he's actually 74 now, so, that's how many years back. But I told him a friend of mine had the encounter that I had. I didn't want to tell him it was me. Figured he would call me a fool or something. But he's still in the same area that he had when he was 17. He heard a weird howl. And my grandpa grew up hunting, trapping, was a fisherman, was always outdoors. And he said he's never heard anything like this before. And it pretty much stalked him through the woods. And he ran back, never did see it, just heard it, and took off pretty much. And that was his encounter that he told me.
Did he know? Did he take a guess at what it was that was following him?
No, he had no idea, no clue. I'm from southeast Louisiana, so we do have tales of Rougarou,
right?
As you want to call it. So I'm guessing maybe that's what he might have thought it was.
Right.
But he never seen what it was.
Now the Rougarou, is that a Dogman or is that a Bigfoot?
Actually, from what I hear about it, yes, it is. Kind of like I guess you would say a southern werewolf. That's pretty much the description of it, yeah.
Right. So there's legends that come from that area that basically about people changing into the dog man, correct?
I'm not quite sure if they actually changed or if it's just a creature itself, kind of like, maybe like a Bigfoot or something.
Right. Okay.
But I know I've always heard the legends of it. Never heard any of, my grandpa, great grandpa talk about that it changed, kind of like you would say, like a skinwalker went from a human to this. I think this is just, it is what it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, I think is that a French word, the loup-garou?
Yeah, it's actually spelled. I think if you spell it, it would kind of look like it would be spelled as loup-garou.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that in the actual spelling of it. But yeah, a lot of a lot of your Cajuns is French settlers and stuff like that.
Right.
So my grandma spoke Caucasian French and had that really strong Louisiana accent.
Right. Well, that's cool with me because I've got ancestors that are from France, so the spelling of my name is different now, but it tracks back to France anyway. Well, yeah, I know that you have a very, very interesting encounter. If you would kind of take us back to the time period and kind of walk us through what happened and kind of leading up to it, and then take us through the encounter, and don't leave out any details. If you
All
would.
right, I sure will. I'll start from the beginning.
All right.
Pretty much, I went one night on this levee system. There's a levee system, and there's a big ridge of oak trees that goes out into the marsh. And the deer and wild pigs will take that ridge and then cross that levee system and, go back and forth. So there's a lot of traffic on that levee system. So one night, probably it was 2012, mid-November, cool, pretty cool, and it was a pretty dark night. Moon wasn't really out too much. And I decide, I'm going to go to that spot because they pass there a lot at night and, try to kill a deer, pig, whatever I can get. And so I parked my truck at the city has a little road by a school and a library. So I parked my truck there and I probably walked about a mile to my spot on the levee because the levee curves around the city. So I walked about a mile to my spot. And as I made the turn to where I was going, the wind was in my favor, so my sound wasn't going to travel. As I made the turn, I heard like a growl, and at this time the bushes was really high. I'm 6'1", bushes was probably about my height, and there was a small tree in the bush, and the tree shook plus the growl. So I shined my light to the side, and when I shined my light, the eyes was at least a foot above the grass, and I mean they glowed yellow, maybe a yellowish kind of amber color, depending on which way the light hit it.
Right.
And so I didn't know what that was and what could possibly be. I know it wasn't a deer. I knew it wasn't a pig. The eye shine wasn't the right color. So I took a step back, well, maybe probably a couple steps back, and it came out of the brush. And I shined my light again, and the first thought that came to my head was werewolf. I've never heard anything about the dog man then, until I had my encounter and, checked everything out. Never heard anything about a dog man before.
Right.
So the first thought that came to my head was werewolf, and it was probably 7 or so feet tall. The eyes was lit up. More hair. The hair was really thick around the chest, neck area, and the back. I know I hear a lot of people say they kind of look like the underworld monsters on there, but mine didn't really resemble that too much. For some reason, the first Howling movie, is what I thought of, and it growled and took a step toward me. So, I was hunting with a Romanian AK, and I took a shot, and I hit it. This thing was feet from me, probably 20, 30 feet at the most. And I'm probably adding some feet to that. And I took a shot and hit this thing directly in its chest. And it took a couple steps back. And so, all this happened so fast. And I'm trying to gather my thoughts, trying not to freak out. And they bleed. Where I hit it in the chest,
Right.
left a wound because, I could see the hair was wet around the chest area where the bullet hit from, I guess, in the blood. It kind of looked like it was almost a little cloudy too.
Right. How close were you to it?
I was close. Like I say, I'd probably say at least 15, 20 feet by the time I put the shot onto him.
Wow.
So I was really close, and I'm a good shot. And I know I hit that thing. And the way it was black, I'm trying to, it was solid black, but it had some spots of brown, maybe a reddish brown in it.
Right.
Also. And teeth, huge. The canine teeth was huge. It wasn't really like a dog. It was bigger than, say, a dog's.
Right.
And very pointy. Then, say, go back a few teeth from the canine. They had almost like another set of canines, but that wasn't as big as the front. Because the front was really huge. But they had like almost another set of canines in the middle of the mouth.
Wow. And what was you described something very unusual about that set? What can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, they almost the back they had it on the top. They was on the top and the bottom, almost like another set of trying to use the right word, maybe incisors or something like that. Because the way the canine teeth closed. I mean, it had its mouth. It growled. I shot it. But yeah, it had another set of smaller sized canines toward the middle of its mouth. I don't know if that's something common that y'all hear.
Yeah. But you said they kind of hooked as if they were meant to hold, right?
Yeah, they did have kind of a little curve to it, almost, and it's like the top ones curved more, and then the bottoms, look like it just met it perfectly. Like almost like a boar. You know how they self-sharpen or something?
Yeah.
That's what comes to my mind. But, just not quite as big. They didn't stick out,
Right.
But that's what it looked like. That thing looks like if it grabbed a hold of you, unless it wanted to let you go,
right,
you wasn't getting away. And
yeah,
the bottom, it had dog legs, big paws at the bottom, like a dog's paw. The hands, the arms was really long. It wasn't like some people say big, like a Bigfoot. It was kind of taller and skinnier.
Right.
But, very muscular. This thing was very muscular. Like, I don't know. I guess if it wanted to, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today.
Right.
The hands reminded me of a raccoon's hands. The way they could go down on all fours, but also use them as hands if they needed.
Right.
That the front hand, the paws, whatever you want to call it, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. And you said what kind of claws did it have?
It definitely didn't have fingernails. It definitely looked like claws, and I mean they was long, black. I mean midnight black colored. It definitely was also a male. It had male genitalia that I seen. Skin color was a really dark gray color.
Right.
On the spots where I could see skin.
Right.
So another thing, when I noticed all that, what else came to my mind was how many more of these things are out there. And, if there's a male one, there's got to be, I guess, a female. So
Yeah.
do these things breed? I have no idea. But, in the seconds to maybe a minute of my encounter, all this was going through my head. But, I only shot it once. I had 30 rounds in the magazine, so I could have dumped it. But after the first shot, it kind of stepped back, and, I stepped back after that and kind of walked back slowly. I didn't take off running. You definitely don't want to run from a predator. So I kept my eyes on it and just walked back slowly. And then I made my way back to my truck.
And you said did it pursue you?
It did. It pretty much after the shot, the initial contact we made with one another, and I backed up, and it let out a howl. I looked everything up online to see, different movies, different howls, and the howl that I got the closest to was the howl that the werewolf in American Werewolf in London did. Is the closest thing, not exactly to that, but pretty close to it.
Right.
And as I'm running back to my truck now I still got about a mile back to get to my truck, and this thing would come out the woods, and if I shine my light back on it, it would go back in, and it followed me closer. It stayed about the same amount of distance. As I got away, it came closer, and it would go in and out of the brush. Every time I shine back on it, then there's a street light where I go back to my truck.
Right.
And once I got underneath there and I made it back to my truck, it stopped. It would not come into that street light. It stopped and looked like it just turned and went back into the brush, and I could hear it go through the brush, and then never seen it again, and got in my truck and took off.
Yeah. So when you shot it and it stepped back, did it ever fall?
No.
Or go down to fours?
No, it did not. If it went down on all fours, as long as the hands were, I see why people would say they get that hyena look because of the arch in the back.
Right.
Their front paws are so much longer than the back.
Right.
That, but I didn't see it go down on all fours. Even
Right.
when it came out, it looked like it pretty much stayed on all twos. On two legs.
So did you have a feeling that what kind of you were shooting with an AK, so describe like the bullet and maybe even the feeling that you had whether this thing would survive or not.
Well, I use it's a hunting bullet made for wild boars. I've dropped big deer, 200-pound pigs, one shot with this bullet. It's a soft point bullet, so when it hits, it also expands, almost like a hollow point, but it's shaped like a Full Metal Jacket. It's just soft and hollow in the middle.
Right.
So I've dropped some pretty big animals with one shot, and this thing never even but took a step or two back. So that pretty much.
How much blood did you see? You said you saw it bleeding.
It dripped. It was let's see. I hit top of chest. Blood was down to where it dripped down to where maybe its navel would have been, but I didn't see a navel on it.
Right.
So it was, and it looked like it was dripping pretty much. Now I can't see how this thing actually took that bullet. It took the bullet great, but I can't see it surviving somewhere in the long run unless there's, unless, I don't know, I just couldn't see it surviving that bullet. But if it did, wow,
Yeah, no, that's amazing that it would even want to pursue you. It almost makes me think that it was protecting or making sure that you leave the area because of maybe the female and a baby or something like that. It just it blows my mind.
That's a good possibility. Either that, or I think that might have been maybe its hunting ground. But I don't see, that's sometimes during the day, there's kids that go around that area, ride their four-wheelers.
Right.
But they're not supposed to ride on them levee systems as long as the police don't catch them. But I've been there. Like I say, I've hunted that spot years. I'm
Right.
35 years old. I've been hunting on my own since I'm 8. And the fact that I never did see one of those things before. I never did see one again. I hope I never see one again. It took me a little while to go back hunting. Like I told you in the thing, I'm back hunting. Matter of fact, I hunted this morning, not in that spot. I don't go at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning anymore. I pretty much go right before daylight and come sneak into the woods.
Right. So do you think that it was basically on that levee because it's kind of a funnel area for game, and it was there to try to
I think it might have followed some game in. We have at night there's you have rabbits. We like I say pigs, deer. We have big neutral rat. I don't know if anybody if you know what that is. Looks like a giant rat. They're
yeah,
huge.
they're about like the size of a beaver, but look like a rat.
Pretty much, it doesn't have the big flat tail like a
Right.
beaver has. It has a long, skinny, solid black tail.
Yeah.
But it lives water.
Right.
Tails laying up like a beaver. Yeah, that's pretty much the best description you can give.
Right. Now I just kind of want to go back for a second. When you first heard something, you heard a growl, and then you noticed you said you noticed the like a small tree waver or something like that, and then it stepped out.
Yeah. Well, when I say a small tree, we got to think I'm from southeast Louisiana, so we used to oak trees. And you know
Yeah.
how big those things can get. So
Yeah.
I figured this tree was probably about 4, 5, 6 inches around.
Yeah.
Not quite sure what kind of tree it was. It's different than an oak tree, but it shook it violently. Like the little bit of leaves that was left pretty much was falling off.
Oh, so he tried to make a show of shaking that tree then.
Exactly. And, the growl,
Huh.
if it would have just been a growl, the first thing that would have came to my head was maybe like a coyote or something,
Right.
because we also do have those around. But with the tree shaking like that, I didn't
Wow.
know exactly what to think. And then, like I say, as soon as it happened, I bent over. My light is strapped around my head, so wherever I look is which way my light goes. So as soon as I looked toward it, I seen two pretty big yellow eyes.
Right. And you said it looked kind of like shining maybe a flashlight up through a beer mug, and the color of the beer lit up was the color.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
That's
almost like because when I shine the light, when it came out and I shine the light on it and it hit the chest, my
Yeah.
light has a pretty strong beam. It's not really wide.
right.
So its eyes, I feel like at one point I seen its eyes and they wasn't really reflecting the light, but they were still at that color like you would just, put a flashlight underneath a beer mug.
Right.
And that's the color of its eyes, like a yellow color.
And now that you described the snout and the ears and the hair and stuff that was on the ears, can you give a description of that?
Oh, the ears reminded me long, pointy, almost like you would see somebody get their Doberman's ears cut.
Right.
I mean, long pointed like that. The end of the ears had like a little bit had some hair coming off the tips. So, like I said, I was really close. I got a good look at this thing. I could even make out the hair at the tips of its ears.
Wow. That's so cool.
And
Now,
like I say,
go.
the neck area, the back, and its chest where it almost came down to the stomach, almost like into a point. The thickness of the hair,
Yeah.
almost like it reminded me of not like a lion's mane, not quite as pronounced as that,
Right.
but kind of close to it. Because
Yeah.
all the hair on it, even the thin parts, was the same color, except the spots had maybe like some little stripes or spots. Kind of, I seen some brown in it too.
Right.
I'm thinking whatever it was, for some reason, I didn't feel like this thing was really old. I would almost think like this thing might have been like maybe a teenage kind of, because when I hear other people's descriptions of them and how huge, and wide they are, like wide.
Right.
The one I seen wasn't really like that. It was tall, so I mean, you see something 7 foot tall and then 7 foot tall with kind of a sloped head, huge head too. Head was almost looks like it was too big for the body. Huge.
Huh. Okay.
And now it came to a point, as you described to me when you said kind of almost like in a baboon shape.
Right.
That's pretty much what it was. And you know how when a baboon opens his mouth, its front teeth are really huge?
Right.
That's how his was. Huge.
Huh.
and then you go a little ways back, and it almost had like another set of I want to say incisors or something, because the way they curve, like I say, this thing grabbed a hold of you, and
Yeah, you wouldn't get away if it grabbed a hold of you with them hook teeth.
I'd almost say a bite from that thing would be like worse than a shark bite, in the water. It would be bad.
Yeah. If it had those curved teeth, I mean, it would have to tear to get, to get off of the teeth. I mean, that's designed to grab and hold and make sure it gets the kill, kind of thing. That's amazing.
That's exactly what it looked like. Now, like I say, I definitely never would want to see anything like that again. Never heard anybody ever seeing anything like that. The years I've been hunting, say the only really story I can go on was the one my grandpa told me.
Right. So do you think that if you didn't have the gun, do you feel like it maybe would have attacked you?
Definitely. I definitely think it would have, because I mean, it came out after shaking the tree. It came out, took a few steps. I took a few. As soon as I seen the yellow eyes, I stepped back, and as I'm stepping back, it's coming forward, because it was in the brush. I'd say 5-6 yards or so.
Right.
It was a good ways away, and so when it came toward me, my first instinct was to shoot. So,
right.
Even I know some people might say, well, what about if it was a man in a costume or something? Well, if it was a man in a costume, he should have never been doing that. So,
yeah. Well, he would have dropped if it was a man in a costume.
That's exactly what I thought too. If it was a man in a costume, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't even he would have never survived that. No way.
Yeah. Now
if it was a costume, this guy should definitely work for Hollywood, because
yeah. Yeah, well, we know it's not a man in a costume. That'd be crazy to think that. But
yeah.
So I do know that some people say that they sometimes will give a bluff charge, and they'll charge and then they'll stop. But I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what would have happened. So the shot to the chest, I think, was a deterrent, and the fact that he still followed you, that is incredible.
That is remarkable, because I might have to send you a picture of the ammo I use. It's
right.
Like I say, I've dropped pigs, and you drop a pig, it's a bad bullet. That's not exactly a little sissy animal.
No.
A 200-pound pig ain't nothing to mess with. And like I say, I've dropped them. I mean, killed them instantly. Deer, same thing. My biggest deer killed with it was probably an 8-point, I believe. And, I dropped him in his tracks. Never even kicked his legs. Hit him and dropped. So the fact that I can hit this thing dead center in the chest and it can still follow me for almost a mile is...
Yeah, that's amazing.
I still can't wrap my head around that,
Right.
If somebody would even tell me the story, there's no way I'd probably even believe them. It's...
Right. Yeah. Now, it would amaze me if the thing could take a shot like that to the chest and not die later, and that not be a mortal wound.
That's what I'm wondering too. And where do they go? Where do they sleep? Where do they go during the day? We in Southeast Louisiana, they definitely not going in a cave. They're not digging in the ground. You dig 1 or 2 feet in the ground, and there's nothing but water.
Right.
So where do these things go? That's all kind of questions that it seems like the more I try to look up on it, the more questions I have.
Right. Well, they seemingly live. I think there's more and more of them. I think their population is growing because there's more and more reports of them, and that could be that people are coming forward more and more. But I really feel like there's an increase in sightings for one, and these things are very, very good at living alongside, not far from people, and people just don't know. it's incredible that there could be a golf course or something, and within 100 yards from that golf course there are Bigfoot, and there are dog men that are living and thriving and breeding and basically living side by side with human population, and the human population is for the most part ignorant of it because of the science community doesn't want to acknowledge that they exist. Now, what do you
Right.
think about knowing that that it's a fact that there are such thing as these dogmen? It's a fact that there are such thing as Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and things like that. What do you think about it when the scientific community won't acknowledge the fact that these things exist, and what does that do to the general population when it comes to acknowledging such things?
That's pretty much my reason on wanting to stay. Not wanting to state my real name.
Right.
Because it's not a common name. I'm from a small town.
Right.
I'm an EMT.
Right.
I don't want to get labeled as that crazy person. But
Yeah.
I was hoping maybe the more people that come forward with their stories, people
Right.
will actually know these things are out there. Because how many times have I hunted and maybe one of these was watching me? Because
Oh,
if it would have never bowed, would have never shook that tree, would
right.
have just stayed there watching me,
Right.
I wouldn't even know it was there.
Right. Yeah. See, that's what makes me think he was protecting something. Pardon?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's what makes me think he was protecting something, because most of the time they are there and they are watching and you never know it.
Yeah, and like I say, after I made that initial shot, my thought was, how many more of these things are there? Is this another one?
Yeah.
I've also seen in the last few years, we didn't have many coyotes, but we've been having probably since around 2010, more and more coyotes showing up too. And as I've looked up things online, I've seen that people report them traveling with coyotes. So I wonder if they move with them,
Right.
hunt with them.
Yeah. It's real.
Almost like a person would hunt with their dog. Use a coyote.
Right.
So I'm wondering if they almost could do something like that. Like I say, the more I even think about it, and it's just, the more it blows my mind.
Right. Yeah. Now they really do travel a lot with the coyotes. A lot of the sightings that are come along with coyote activity. Even to some effect, sometimes the coyotes will come up to humans and act like they're not even afraid of a human being. I guess because the dogman is around. It's kind of a really, really strange coyote behavior a lot of times with
Yeah, that is. You know what else tripped me out too? Even though the winters are cold, we always have crickets or something's always making a sound. That night was totally silent. I mean,
yeah.
Just nothing, just dead silence. So, and like I say, I hunted a lot at night, and that's pretty unusual not to hear anything.
Yeah, that's incredible. Do you think that maybe because of the other predators that this dogman is probably the top predator, that maybe some of the other predators that are a little under it, maybe like the bobcat, the coyote, and all those kind of things, you think maybe due to those things being scared, and it kind of goes on down the chain with the wildlife all shutting up?
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's got to be something to the fact that that's so common that people say it was completely silent, like even the bugs shut up.
Yeah, that's how it was. We always, even if it's 30, if it say it's 39 degrees, 38 degrees down here in the winter, that's a pretty cold night. And there's always something making noise. Even birds make noise at night around here.
Right.
There was nothing, no bugs, just dead silent.
Yeah, that tells you right there how much the wildlife ecosystem is kind of connected together, and when you have a top predator come in, how it can affect the whole ecosystem in such a way. And yeah, that's amazing to me. And that's another thing that's very, very common. So after you had this encounter, um, what was it like for you? How long did it take you to go hunting again? And what was it like, and how has it affected you when you go in the woods now?
It still affects me to this day. Like I say, I'd never leave as early. Uh, I want to be, by the time I touch the woods, I almost want it to be cracking daylight. I never stopped. I stopped for a little while hunting. It took me a little while to get used to it, but then I thought, I hunted all these years. I'm not going to let something like this stop me, even
Right.
though this was something pretty terrifying. I never hunted back in that same spot, but I still go. I mean,
Yeah.
I went. I hunted this morning, as a matter of fact.
When you're hunting, do you kind of constantly are you looking around every time you hear a tree crack or
every little sound, Brenton. Every little sound.
I bet, man. I've
Every little thing.
Yeah, I've had a few encounters with not the dog man, but I've had a few experiences, let's just say, and it affects me to this day, and it's been many years. I've had a few encounters, so that not all of them's been many years, but once you have an encounter with something that is so far out of the ordinary, it leaves an indelible mark on your your mind. You just cannot get rid of it.
It changes your perception on life. It's definitely something that
Right.
something you would think would never happen. If somebody would have told me that they had things like this out in the woods, maybe I'd have never even started hunting. If I'd have had this early on in life.
Right. Now, the next time you see one,
no, I don't plan on seeing another one.
well, if you do,
I don't know. Because, like, you got me thinking now, what if it was protecting a female, maybe a baby,
right?
and this baby seen me shoot its dad, and so that's got me thinking too. Like I say, the more I look up, the more I looked up about it, the more questions
right
about this that I had.
Do you think they have any type of humanoid type intelligence, or do you think they're more animalistic?
Well, like I say, his head is huge, so it's definitely probably got to have a pretty big brain in there. So yeah. I think they're definitely smart. If not, people would probably see them every day. I do live next to a national park with no hunting areas in it,
right.
And park rangers patrol it constantly.
Right.
A cousin of mine was a wildlife agent, but I've never heard him say anything about it. I've never brought up the story to him.
Right.
I don't want people to think I'm crazy or something.
Yeah, those guys aren't allowed to say anything. They would mess their career up. But some of them.
Retired now.
Oh yeah. Well, I'd ask him if I was you, if he ever heard anything or seen anything, and Now, if you was to be hunting again, and one of them was to approach you, would you shoot one? Would you shoot it again if you had to, and would you finish it off maybe?
Oh, if it approached me like the other one,
yeah,
I would definitely shoot again. Maybe if it was a bluff charge that, like you say, he bluffed the wrong person.
yeah.
I couldn't take that chance. You got that fight or flight instinct.
Right.
And my first instinct was to pull that trigger. The fact that I didn't even pull it more, to tell you the truth, doesn't even comprehend. That one shot. But this time, if it would have to bluff me. But I'm wondering if I would have finished the thing off, if something else would have finished me off, if I had enough rounds.
Yeah.
With me,
Right.
And I almost would, probably be having a different story if I would have.
Yeah.
you know. And back then, I didn't have no smartphones, taking no pictures, videotape. You know, this was 2012. I ain't got my first smartphone until a few years ago.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't blame you for not taking a chance. You don't know if they're bluffing you or not, man. And that's their bad. I mean, I wouldn't take that chance. You know, just wait and see if it's a bluff charge when you're that close to it. Heck no, man. Those things move so fast that he could have closed that gap on you if you didn't shoot. He could have been on you before you could pull the trigger again.
I can imagine how fast this thing moves. Its thighs, whatever you would consider, whatever a dog's looking. Like I said, it had dog paws on its feet, and different kind of paws for the hands. But on all fours, on all twos, there's no way this thing could move fast. I mean, the thighs on it was huge. The skinniest thing on it was its waist. Everything else was really muscular.
Right.
It kind of reminded me of like if you could imagine a 7-foot tall fighter, cut. You know how a fighter's like a really cut, muscular.
Yeah.
And this thing hairy, and you can see muscle through it. So
Yeah. I think it was kind of like an NBA player, a basketball player, cut, but not huge like a football player.
But imagine if a basketball player kind of had a hunch to its back and still was 7 foot tall, and then way more muscular,
Right. Now, when it comes to the width of his head, if I was to make a painting of this, in comparison to its shoulder width, how wide was the head ratio-wise? Like half as wide as the shoulders, or?
I'd go almost and say almost 3/4.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, his head was really, really big for its body. I've heard people say that they've seen the dog man with really big, when I hear people describe Bigfoot, sometimes they talk about a 12-foot tall, 10-foot tall creature, which was so wide, This wasn't quite as wide as that, or maybe it looks wider to them because maybe they're further away. I was really close.
Right.
I'm 6'1", 260 pounds, so I'm not a small person by any means. And this thing was, taller than me. But yeah, his head was huge.
Yeah, Jason from down in Texas, when he seen the dead dog man on the side of the road, one had apparently been hit by a vehicle or something. But anyway, it was on the side of the road. He said the head was 3 foot wide. And he said the thing it was as long as their truck, and their truck was, like 16 foot long. I mean, he may have been exaggerating it some, but when he says it had a 3 foot head for a creature, if it was 10 foot, say, its head would be 3 foot, wouldn't it?
Oh, I guess so. I always had a straight on look from the angle I always was to it. Right. So I never really seen too much of a say a side profile of it.
Right.
I step back, it step forward, I step back. So I couldn't really tell you exactly how long. I couldn't make a great estimate of how long it was, but I know its head was really huge and was wide. Like I say, its shoulders. Imagine, this thing's about 7 foot tall, and the head being about 3/4 the size of its shoulder width or so.
So how wide would the shoulders have been? Maybe 3 feet, or?
Probably about that, 3.5 feet or so.
Okay.
It was, like I say, it wasn't a small animal by any means.
Okay.
But I don't think it was as big as I hear a lot of people describe a Bigfoot as.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a visual so that I could get it accurate when I do a painting for the thumbnail and stuff for your story. And then you said it was black and it had brown patches and it had almost a mane.
Not like just a little stripe of brown here and there.
Yeah.
A dark reddish brown.
Right.
Mostly in the chest, it seemed like.
Okay.
And the skin was a really dark, like a smoke gray, a really dark blackish gray. Is the best way I could explain the skin.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. So do you have any words you'd like to say to those who would hear your story? Any advice or anything like that?
Pay attention to what's in the woods with you. You never know whether you believe my story or not. That's up to you. But those things are out there, and when you go out in the woods, just watch your surroundings. You know, like I say, if he would have never did what he did, I would have never even knew it was there, as big as it was.
Right. Yeah. Well, I tell you this, Tony. I really appreciate you sharing your story with me and my channel here in the show. I know that you were reluctant about sharing at first, and the fact that you trust me to share your story, I really appreciate that, and that makes me feel good that you would trust me.
Well, I appreciate what you do, you know. And yeah, I was really nervous about it, you know, whether I'd make a terrible interview or not.
No.
People would think I was crazy. You know, you have all that running through your head.
Yeah.
Plus, on top of trying to get your mind around the encounter you had, I think because if this would have happened last week, I probably wouldn't be here talking about it.
Right.
The fact that it was, you know, in 2012.
Right.
So I had a little over 3 years or so
to process it.
Try to wrap my head around it. I still have just as many questions, you know, as I did 3 years ago.
Right. Well, I do know, Tony, that it's good to share it and get it off your chest, to get so it's not a secret. I think the secrecy is kind of harmful for a person to process the the encounters they have. I know with my own experiences I've had with beings that are not normally known, the sharing it really helped me get past it and process it in a healthy way.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. Maybe if, you know, somebody else had this happen to them or scared to come forward, you know, hopefully this story might help them realize that, hey, these things happen, you know.
Yes, this is very, very important.
Right. I'm sorry. If this could help one person out there, then, you know, I feel like then I did a good job.
Right. Yes, you did. And there will be many people thankful for that. You got to ignore the trolls. There's going to be trolls that, you know, put a bad comment here and there. But when you look at the thousands of hits that it gets in the amount of 20, 30, 40 or whatever end up bad comments, it's a very minimal amount of people that are negative. And most people really appreciate it. And you will help somebody know they're not alone, they're not crazy, and all kinds of different things. And it's very helpful to emotionally or mentally be healthy, to not keep something like that in and think that you're the only one. I mean, a lot of people think that they maybe went nuts, you know. But it's a reality. Those things are out there. There are some things in the woods that science doesn't acknowledge, and it's about time maybe they start looking at it in a more serious way, and come and do some serious science, because there are DNA studies like Melba Ketchum did, and you know, about ruining her career. Even the Bigfoot community didn't treat her good, and I think that was I think that was awful. They should have been the ones to embrace her, and you know, so. But anyway, you're gonna have a lot of people that are glad that you shared, and it'll help other people come forward, and we don't need other people to acknowledge our encounters, you know.
Yeah, that's true too. You know, and as far as for internet trolls, I ain't worried about them. I'm married, so they can't possibly say anything worse than what my wife would tell me.
That's funny. Well, yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, that ain't nothing. Whatever they say, that's like, that ain't nothing. And you made a friend too. You got my home number, and you've got my number to the show here. You got my email, and I will be coming down to Louisiana and checking out Diane's place, and I will definitely give you a holler before I come down, and maybe you can go with me.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe if you come down and you're close enough to where I am, I'm about 20, 30 miles south of New Orleans. So maybe I could even take you to the spot.
Yeah.
Where everything happened. Because like I say, it's not that bad. I can park my truck, take that mile hike, and you're pretty much just walking on a levee.
Yeah. Well, if I come down there to Louisiana, and I will, I don't know exactly when it'll be. I would make it a point to swing by and see you, man. So, that's fact.
All right, that sounds great.
Yeah. And like I'll say, like Vic kind of says, don't be a stranger. You got my number. You can call me anytime you want, man. Jason calls me all the time, man. Guy from Texas that's seen the Dead Dog, man. And he would be interested if I was to come. He wants to go down there with me when I go to see Diane's place. And you would really like Jason, man. And because I might bring him with me, you know. But it'd be a blast, man. We'd have a good old time.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan there.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on, man, and I guess I'm gonna wrap the show up, and I'll be talking to you anyway. And if you would take me a picture of the site, and anything you want to send me on that effect, I'm around, and you know how to get in touch with me. But I'll be calling you from time to time.
I'm off today and tomorrow, so I could probably swing by maybe later this evening and take a picture of that site. I definitely ain't going when it's dark.
Yeah, I want to try to get this uploaded today, so if you could do that anytime, as soon as you can, without doing too much out of your way, I would like to put those in the video if you can do it in time, because I didn't get an upload for this week, and I really feel like I let the fans down when I don't get something uploaded on at least by Friday. But I had a cold and all kinds of stuff, man. So
I think they'll still love you. I think you'll be okay. You're a good guy. I think they'll still love you.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, I know. I've got some really cool fans, that's for sure. They've been so helpful and supportive of me. And well, thank you very much, man. And I'll be talking to you. I'll talk to you later. And I'll probably give you a holler when I get this finished edited. And I'll be calling you some, man. For real. I'm not kidding about that.
Hey, I got your number saved.
All right. Yeah, you make sure you keep that programmed in. Now, this number that I'm calling you on here is the number for the show. You can't really call that number, but I did call you from my home number, and you can save that, and you can call me on that phone anytime or email me anytime you want to, man. If you just need to talk, whatever you want to do.
All right, I appreciate that.
You're welcome, man. Well, anyway, thank you all for watching today. I hope you enjoyed that. I really was looking so forward to presenting this story to you all. These Dogman stories are just so fascinating to me. I like the Bigfoot and Dogman stuff. I just can't help it. I do. And anytime a Dogman story involves a gun, I mean, you can't beat that. That's got to be the best. So you all be sure to share, like, comment, subscribe. And if anybody wants to contribute to help me make these videos, you can do that at brentonson@gmail.com is my PayPal. Or you can go to Facebook Mysteries to search. And then there's a tip button or whatever they call that here on YouTube. They changed it a couple times on the channel that you can help. And one of these days, I will go down and see Tony here and swing by Diane's place too and make this story a little more visual for you. And well, anyway, God bless you all, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.